Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. K.R. Ramamohan, Associate Professor and Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to talk module on modernization and dependency theories in development, anthropology. So this module is from the theories and methods in social cultural anthropology. So before we go to this module, let us see what are the learning outcomes. To learn about different theories and models of development, to know about the concept of institutional approaches in development, to gain knowledge about indigenous people and development, to discuss the role of development anthropology and cultural anthropology in development. So before we understand the whole theories of modernization and development theory, let us understand what is the concept of development. What do you mean by development? So these questions naturally arise for us when we talk of the whole concept of development. Development means the change that is directed towards improving of human welfare. In that sense, development anthropology mainly concerns with how a particular culture and development interact to improve people live, particularly reducing the poverty. So poverty is an index for development of any community. If there is no poverty, one can assume that this society is not really under development. So in that sense, development is understood to raise the levels of income, and this income levels will be giving enough opportunity to cater to all the needs of the people. So development anthropology considers this concept which is related to the change and development and various approaches to the development. We want to understand what are the different perspectives related to the concept of development. So to have a better understanding of the subject matter, which focus is given in the development of indigenous people. So this is the communities where they lack development. They need development to catch up with the other parts of the world. And when we take women as a class in all the societies, they have some kind of a status which should be elevated, in a sense that education to women, employment opportunities to women, women participating in political spheres, all these things together requires a special entrance towards development. So it also gives a look at the important issues in development and a contribution of how the body of knowledge in cultural anthropology towards the whole process of development. Now, when we talk of models of development and various kinds of institutions and organizations that involves in various developmental activities, and how anthropologists engage themselves or work towards to raise the levels of empowerment or need to be discussed. So, to start the whole developmental debate, we need to understand most important theories in the process of development from economic point of view, from cultural point of view, from social point of view. And the major theories are the modernization theory, world systems theory, and post-development theory. These three important theories differ in terms of how the concept of development, the process of development, and the end products of the development. When we say the word modernization, modernization, it implies some kind of a social mobility. So people should enhance their social status. In that sense, there should be some change in their purchasing capacity, change in their resources. So a mobile society has to encourage rationality for the calculus of choice. So people should be endowed with a range of choice. Only then one can say that this modernization has started. So it ultimately shapes the individual behavior in terms of choosing what he needs. He should not be devoid without any choice. So they come to see the social future as manipulative rather than ordained in their personal prospects, or in terms of achievements rather than their own heritage. So here, the major goals of modernization are the enhancement or the increase in material progress. That means there should be more technological devices, more equipment which enhances the quality of life in terms of transportation, in terms of household things, in terms of their occupation, in terms of communication, which facilitates the individual betterment leading to the people's well-being. So to put together, modernization takes all these devices into give a more sense of ownership, a sense of leisure, where one can feel that one can take control of their own life. So there are many supporters and critics of modernization, both in poorer and rich countries. So those who propagate, those who see advantage in modernization is what the cost of the environment and society by improving transportation, telecommunication, technology, healthcare facilities, education, and any other thing which enhances the standards of living, which they see that this is the benefit of a society. So they see that there are more advantages than little disadvantages. Perhaps there could be some kind of limitation or a disadvantage, but the advantages things overlaps or shadows these disadvantages. So they are of the opinion, those who says that modernization process is essentially good, or modernization process has a benefit value, that modern states are more powerful and wealthier, and all the citizens of these modern states are to some extent free, and they have range of choices. They have capacity to see all these resources, to enjoy a more or a higher standard of living when compared to other states or other societies. On the other hand, those who are little skeptical about this modernization process or the modernization approach, they see it as a little problematic because of its focus on over increasing consumption levels. In a sense that people have purchasing capacity, but at the same time, they have a range of things to consume. So, the resources which are available and the purchasing capacity they have are becoming more nullified. And there is extensive use of non-renewable resources which are not good for the environment. Moreover, modernization of a society required the distinction, and they feel that modernization is harming all the traditional indigenous cultural groups. In this process, this modernization, all the age-old traditional cultures, age-old traditional societies are soon disappearing under the garb of this modernization process. So there is a lot of cultural process has been replaced by the so-called westernized culture. And the examples could be the traditional religious beliefs, practices, customs, unique cultural traits are usually becoming less important, and the old value systems have been replaced by a new set of value systems, and they feel that modernization process is the culprit. Another important understanding or approach in the whole development is the world systems theory. The world systems theory is a structural theory that explains the reason why underdeveloped countries, there are so many underdeveloped countries in each and every continent. In Africa, many countries are underdeveloped. In Asia, you have underdeveloped countries. In the Americas, you have underdeveloped countries. So like that, if you take the entire globe, there are few developed countries and there are more underdeveloped countries. Why it is happening and what is the role? And some countries are called as developing countries. So why there is distinction between all the countries in this world? So according to world systems theory, the reason is basically the world economy. The world economy has come to such a stage that it is set up that the developed countries, the so-called Western developed countries, are exploiting the underdeveloped countries in many ways. And the range of activities all related to the economy. And some countries engage in the highly valued economic activities, and some others are seen to involve in activities which are closely related to economy. So these kinds of interactions between those type of countries results in the transfer of wealth. So wealth is coming from one country to another country. They are giving the wealth from an underdeveloped to the developed country. So wealth is not an inherent property in the developed country. So wealth is coming from the other parts of the world to the developed country. So the world system theory explains what occurs in this world economy by pointing out that the relationship among nations, how this is happening, how a particular country like US or a particular country like the United Kingdom is so wealthy, or the most powerful, wealthiest nations in Europe, why are they so wealthy, and why the rest of countries which are in many parts of the world, like in Africa, in Asia, in the Latin America, why are they still underdeveloped? They said that perhaps the economy which created by these wealthiest nations have getting these resources from these underdeveloped countries, and that could be the mechanism, or that is how it is giving wealth to these developed countries. And this is understood in the relationships between the developed country and the underdeveloped country. So world system theory gives some kind of a structure and categorized that all these countries are at three different levels. The most wealthiest countries are called as the core countries. The countries which are in between the periphery, and some countries are, they have relations with the core countries and as well as the periphery countries. So what are these core countries and what do they do? The core countries primarily engaged in highly valued economic activities like sophisticated manufacturing and serving activities. Look at the range of high-end technologies which come from these core countries, like aeroplanes, like ships, like most technological devices. Where do they come from? So they are engaged in these kinds of business activities. So these service activities depends upon the input of cheap raw material. So where does this raw materials are coming from? To these high-end countries or the core countries. Countries which are called as underdeveloped are rich with minerals, rich with materials, rich with resources. Unfortunately, for variety of reasons, they don't have economy, but they are blessed with all these resources. They do not know what to do with these resources. If also they know, there is no technology for them. They don't know how to process it. There is no expertise. Hence, they are in such a situation that in a relationship with the core country, they have to supply these materials to the manufacturing units set up elsewhere in the other countries, and they are at the receiving end, and these materials are sold or exchanged at a very minimum cheaper price. Not only just giving the raw materials, they're also producing cheap labor. Being understood the modernization theory and world systems theory, which had explained the whole process of modernization, and world system theory places all the countries at different levels of development, that some countries are core, some countries are periphery, some countries are in between semi-periphery. So let us also see what is the approach of the post-development phase. So post-development theory refers to an approach in anthropological development theory which is basically critical of the whole concept of development, in a sense that the argument is development for what? Development for whom? And why is development? And this requires some kind of a discourse on the whole development process. If development is required, in what aspects development is required? How do you bring a change? Is it development from top to below or development from below to up? Which model is correct? And what are the correct mechanisms for this to develop any society? In this way, there are many alternative ways of thinking has come out beyond this whole grand idea of development. So the most prominent developmental theorist in sociological and anthropological literature is Escobar. Escobar's famous work on anthropology and development encounter critiques the past approaches of developmental anthropology as problematic. Various developmental theories were proposed by earlier scholars, but Escobar sees that there is some kind of inconsistencies with these kinds of theories. Escobar is interested on the epistemology of development. So what do you mean by epistemology of development? So the whole knowledge of development, the genesis of development, the mechanisms to development, and the means and ends of the development. So anthropologists complicitly in the modernization development approach and the world systems theory of development have neglected the dynamics and the discourse of development. Hence, Escobar argues that the whole idea of development or development as a concept and a product has functioned as a mechanism of power for the production and management of the third world. So you all know who are the third world countries. So countries who got independence after the Second World War, all can be placed as third world countries. Through a systematic elaboration of various forms of knowledge, concerning all aspects and importance in the life of these countries, and there is a creation of various fields for intervention to development in these countries. So Escobar points out to all the scholars who are engaged in the developmental project, what we call the neoliberal project, as post-developmental theories must critically engage in the whole development process, and the academics, the scholars, should not be just complicit and must address the alternatives to development. And these alternatives to development must be beyond political ideologies. So it should not embedded with any certain political ideology. So the alternatives the development offers, according to Escobar, says that a critical stance with respect to the established scientific discourse, and both the theorists, the practitioners, and the academics must and should reject the ethnocentric, patriarchal character of development models. In a sense that development should come from not our point of view. Development should be made or designed in such a way from a native's point of view. It should not be ethnocentric. It should not be like a dominant model, like a patriarchal model. So a defense of pluralistic grassroots movement, that the felt needs of the people, of any culture, of any society, in the belief that these movements are new social movements, and these movements give a platform in transforming the established social structures and give way to a discourse on what is appropriate developmental idea, or what is an appropriate development stance that a country must take in all these third world countries. So Escobar suggests that a conviction that every one of us who are concerned with this whole developmental agenda or this developmental project, or if we wish that there should be change or empowerment in the other side of the world, must work towards a relation between truth and reality, which has been distorted by the Western models thinking of modernity. So Western countries, they have given one model of what is modernization. But what is the truth in the country that you want to bring modernization or modernity or development is different from what truth you have given. The reality is different here. So this argues that we have to reject those models given by the powerful nations. Now coming to what are the institutional approaches to development? And what is the role of cultural anthropologist in the whole process of developmental project or developmental discourse? So cultural anthropologists are seen to be increasingly aware about the importance of examining the organization, institutions, and specialists that are involved in development policy making and developmental programs, developmental projects for the needy people, with the help of all anthropological knowledge. So it is cultural anthropologists have an expertise knowledge with them to know how to bring a developmental project in any given society. They are the cultural specialists. They know what is required for a particular culture because they worked with the culture. They know what are the needs of the people. It is not the one who sanctioned the project. So in that sense, a cultural anthropologist will become a liaison officer in management terms. He mediates between the local and the funding organization, and he suggests this what is an appropriate model of development. Now, he has a bigger role to play to shape various developmental policies and programs. So, institutional research includes both small and large scale institutions to study these, how to manage these developmental policies and programs. And the large scale developmental institutions, some are multilateral institutions, some are bilateral institutions. In multilateral institutions, the funding will come from one country, it goes to another country, it comes to another agency and reaches the host country. So the donor is different, the recipient, so it all comes through different levels of thing. But in bilateral, they're between donor and recipient. And if you see, the multilateral institutions are like United Nations, the World Bank, and different bodies like UNDP, United Nations Developmental Program, Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, UNICEF, United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, World Health Organization, United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees, and there are so many organizations which operate at multi-level levels. Now, being understood all these things, one also should know what are the grassroots approaches of development. These grassroots approaches are basically locally initiated small-scale projects. Their basic aim is to provide basic social needs for the needy people in that society. And NGOs, non-governmental organizations, voluntary organizations play an instrumental role in bringing a social change for these needy people. And these organizations, they devise the appropriate programs because they are in touch with the local people. They work with these grassroots level people. They know what they want, the priorities of these people. And with these kinds of inputs, they suggest to the funding organizations. Many ambitious big projects given by these multilateral and bilateral international organizations are failures due to a faulty or poor design of a developmental program. They do not take the inputs from the grassroots level. What is the use of giving money? Because they do not know how to, what are the appropriate mechanisms to reach this fund to these people. So in that way, the whole design of the project was faulty. In that sense, at that particular point, a cultural anthropologist should be there. He has to advise, he has to guide, he has to inform, and he has to intervene that what are the actual needs of the recipients. Not only the needs, how it should be channelized in a most appropriate way without disturbing their culture, without disturbing their economy, without disturbing other ways of living. How an osmosis should bring to these things, because they know the context. They give the picture of what is happening at a contextual level. Hence, if a project should be successful, the insights and the expertise of a cultural anthropologist is very much required, right from the designing of the project, in implementing the project, in monitoring the project, till the project ends. At every stage, the role of anthropologist is required. Otherwise, design is different, implementation is different, the outcome is different. Now, these are the people which give proper insights so that the project can achieve success. It could be of any particular project. It could be a project on economy, it could be a project on education, it could be a project on health, it could be a project on infrastructure, it could be of any type of project in any particular culture. Local knowledge is very much important, not the outside knowledge. So in a sense that the whole critique in this whole developmental discourse is that the critical developmental anthropology. So in this approach, the anthropologist takes on a critical thinking role. The question is not what can I do to make this project successful, but anthropologists should ask, is this a good project from the perspective of the local people and their environment? See the careful ways of looking at the same thing. Here, the anthropologist says that what best I can do, it's not like that. But from the native's point of view, whether this project is any benefit for that people, that is the most critical aspect of in the whole developmental discourse or discourse in the whole developmental process. If an anthropologist convince himself or herself, yes, this is a good project from the perspective of the local people in relation to their environment, then he can become a supportive role with that kind of alternative, with that kind of an answer. Rather than what can I do for these people? That brings no relevance. So this is a critique where one must engage without any bias, just taking what is the truth there, what is the reality there for the stakeholders. Today, all the funding organizations are more interested how to develop these indigenous communities, the traditional indigenous community, the native communities. In every societies you have indigenous communities. It is a common sense that these indigenous people are victimized under the name of development, with this growth oriented development. Now there is a movement from these less negotiated or low negotiated skilled indigenous groups that they are trying to redefining themselves what is development for them, not the development is coming from the top to the down approach, and they want to take development in their own hands, because these indigenous people are habitated in a very remote areas with full of all natural resources. They are small in size but they are rich in very natural resources. Because of this remoteness, because of inaccessibility of the outsiders to encroach into their own habitats, somehow they are protected. Otherwise, they would have been exploited. Now, everyone is started interested in these indigenous groups. Governments, organizations, tourists, people want to conserve, all sets of people, they're putting their attention towards these lesser known groups. Because these people lands are very highly valuable. Urban centers, what is there in an urban area? Dry areas, no resources, just only buildings. But look at these unexplored virgin natural resources, and they want to get all these things in the name of tourism, in the name of development, in the name of bridges, in the name of dams. It is estimated all over the world that there are at least 300 to 350 million people, about 5% to the total world population, that these age-old traditional indigenous groups are all there in all continents. Although they have a great source of natural resources to develop independently, but many of these indigenous groups, and they have come in contact with others outsiders, they have a suddenly feeling that they are being exploited. Hence, they are trying to become aware under the garb of developmental projects. Their resources and their culture are being getting disturbed. So this all warrant urgent issues in development. What we call sometimes urgent anthropology, which this whole anthropology looks into what are the emerging issues to be addressed immediately, so that we need to come out with alternatives to sort these problems. So developmental projects are the main mechanisms through which developmental organisms implement their goals. And these projects may be varied from small scale to large scale developmental programs. Some of the projects easily fulfill their goals and some of them fail to complete their projects. They cannot achieve their desired goals. What they thought, the end result was different due to faulty design, implementation, no monitoring. There are so many varieties of factors. Because many of such projects violate the local people's human rights, which leads to destruction of the environment, including loss of biological diversity, deforestation, soil erosion, drying of the natural resources, all kinds of pollution, air, water, toxic. Despite such destruction in many areas, some organizations are seen to consult with the cultural specialists or the cultural anthropologists and see what can do for them so that the environment is not disturbed. So in that sense, urgent anthropology requires the help of cultural anthropologists to intervene and to make less destruction, to make less erosion in their natural resources. Now, the future of development is all rest in the hands of cultural anthropology. As culture is going to be a major factor of change in terms of local, regional, and international development, so how this knowledge can be restored? It is only through the expertise of those who study the native peoples for a longer period of time, who do ethnographic works with these local people. They are the people who know, because they lived with them, they know what they want, what are their felt needs, what are their future needs, so that the world they can redefine what is required for them in their own way, and it can be applied to a practical level through the cultural anthropologists. To summarize, we have understood the concept of what is development. Development is required because to raise the standards of people, and we have two ends of development. Some countries are developed, some countries are underdeveloped, and we have the process of modernization, which bring lot of changes in technology, in healthcare system, in education, in transportation, in telecommunication, so that there is a overall raise in the well-being of the people. And the major theories in the development is the modernization theory, the world systems theory, and the post-development theory, which says that why some countries are lagging behind development, why some countries are rich. Now, the critique of this development with Escobar, saying that it is the Western idea of ideology which is being put in practice in this whole developmental neoliberal projects. And the role of various multilateral and bilateral organizations which are funding hugely, it could be for their own end or it could to bring social change in these impoverished societies, for these deprived sections of the society. Now, how cultural anthropologists can play a greater role in facilitating social change and mobility for these groups which are in the receiving end, and the attraction and attention of these indigenous communities in this world, loss of their resources under the garb of these developmental projects. Hence, the critique in whole cultural anthropology is to attend these urgent issues where cultures and populations are being endangered due to the developmental projects are being put in place in this naturally rich available resources in all these countries. With this knowledge, the future of anthropology should rest in the expertise of cultural specialists who know what it means development to the local people and how and why development can be given for their own good.